Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sakre Pasanubhyaya Vacha Paritanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavyo.
Hare Krishna.
So I think we can start immediately.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Om Jnanatamridasya Jnanam Jnanashalakaya Chakshunamalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manomistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnastam Vitam Tam Sanjivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Sya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shri Tadmani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tetariti Namini Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvese Sasuyavadi Pasachade Satarini Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratuze Namaha Nityanando Vatutendur Vasuda Pranavalabhaha Janaviri Givita Pati Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sanchirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gora Kile Varaha Advaitam Harinadvaita Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Hitam Shamadvaita Acharya Shraye Panchatatvamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhakti Yanamami Bhakti Shakti Devaya Devaki Nandanaya Chananda Gopa Kumaraya Gopasaya Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanitraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanahitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Jayatam Srato Pango Mama Mandir Gatima Sarvaswa Padam Pujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divya Vendaranya Kalpadrumada Srimat Ranadhara Simhastanastao Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prestialidis Diamanos Marami Srimamra Sarasaram Vivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venu Swanai Gopi Gopina Tasri Estunaha Taptakan Chanagorangi Radhe Bindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Devi Krishnamai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam lagayate grinyakri pratamahan vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Bharavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandala Karam Yataina Chara Charam Tanpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So now we glorify this is the Swamis of Vrindavan before we start our discussion. So Stanika Prabhu is sharing the song. Nana Shastra Vicharinaka Nipano Sadharma Samstapaka Lokenamita Karuna Tribhuvane Manya Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Parara Vrinda Bhajanan Nande Namatalika Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghayugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghayugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghayugo Sri Jiva Gopalaka. Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So everyone is welcome to this morning's discussion, probably our final discussion on this Nectar devotion course. So without much ado, we just have to proceed so that we can finish on schedule. 9:30, we should be able to finish. So we're starting with slide 63. We ended on 62, and today we start with 63. So it is said that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Rupa Goswami at the at Prayag, at the Dasa Avatara Ghat, where for 10 days Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami on the science of Bhakti. In fact, he said the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was given to Sri Chaitanya, was given to Rupa Goswami by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He gave him the synopsis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Rupa Goswami the synopsis of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and instructed him to expand on the subject matter. So based on the synopsis that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Rupa Goswami, he wrote these wonderful books, the Ujjvala Niramani and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which we are studying at the moment. So actually, this knowledge is coming directly from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through Rupa Goswami and through the Acharyas. And today we have the opportunity to read this very esoteric science, which is not known to the world. Actually, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is not known to the world. It's only known to the Vaishnavas. And that is a great fortune we have as Vaishnavas. We know we have the opportunity to learn this very, very wonderful science on the mellows, science on the relationships with Krishna. In this world, we all have relationships with people. But where is it coming from? It is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever relationships we are experiencing in this world is simply a reflection of our eternal relationship we have with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so it is only in a Vaishnava tradition that these mellows, these relationships are talked about. In other traditions, philosophies, practices, they only talk of servantship, and that's it. We are servants of God. They have no idea of Sakya Ras, they have no idea of Vasalya Ras, they have no idea of Madhurya Ras, Santa Ras, they have no idea. For instance, in Islam, they just talk of being a servant of God. In Judaism, in Christianity, the best is become a servant of God. But in the Vaishnava tradition, it goes beyond that. There are much more intimate relationships. And that is what this subject, this topic is all about. And this is coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord himself. He spoke about these rasas to Rupa Goswami. And today we are having it. So I was thinking Salika Prabhu is going to share the screen so that we can start reading. We're supposed to be on slide 63. Otherwise, I can read. I have it available for myself, but if he's having some difficulty, then I can read and we can proceed so that by the time he's able to get through, then we can share. So slide 63 says, okay, he's trying to share. Worship of Radha and Krishna in the temple leads to development of conjugal love. So this development of conjugal love can be possible only with those who are already engaged in following the regulatory principles of devotional service, specifically in the worship of Radha and Krishna in the temple. Such devotees gradually develop a spontaneous love for the deity, and by hearing of the Lord's exchange of loving affairs with the gopis, they gradually become attracted to these pastimes. After this spontaneous attraction becomes highly developed, the devotee is placed in either of the above mentioned categories. So the worship of Radha and Krishna in the temple is the basis for developing a conjugal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, when we say temple worship begins with chanting the holy names of the Lord. When we do japa, when we do kirtan, we actually worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as it is quoted in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Trisa Krishnam Sango Pagastram Parshadam Yajai Sankirtanam Prayai Yajanti Hisame Dasaha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, and weapons, and confidential companions. So this sloka from the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam magnifies the importance of chanting the holy names of Krishna. That in this age of Kali, Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That even though he is not blackish like Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, but he is Krishna. Actually, the color of Mahaprabhu is gold. That's why it's called Gauranga. Gauranga. His body is golden. That is Srimati Radharani's color. Srimati Radharani's color is gold. So outside is Radharani, but inside is Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. And he revealed this to a number of devotees, particularly Ramananda Raya. Lord Chaitanya revealed his identity as Radha and Krishna combined to Ramananda Raya. And Ramananda Raya saw that he fainted. He fainted out of ecstasy. He fainted. So in this age of Kali, temple worship means chanting the holy names of the Lord. In fact, there is nothing we can do without chanting the holy names of the Lord. In fact, nothing is complete. Nothing is complete without kirtan. Nothing is complete without japa. When Srila Prabhupada was taking sannyas in Mathura, his sannyas guru and his god brother, Keshava Pragya Maharaj, there was a kirtan going on, there was a bhajan going on. The brahmacharis were doing some sweet kirtans, some bhajans. So when the yagya started, Prabhupada's sannyas guru, he signaled the devotees to stop chanting. They signaled them to stop the bhajans so that the mantras can be chanted. But Prabhupada gave a counter instruction. When he signaled the brahmacharis to stop the bhajan, Prabhupada signaled them to chant the holy name. So the brahmacharis were confused. Here is their guru saying they should stop chanting, and here is the new sannyasi saying they should continue to chant. Anyway, they accepted the last instruction. They continued to chant. So then after that, Prabhupada explained that nothing happens, nothing is successful, no sacrifice is successful without chanting of the holy names of Krishna. The real mantra is the holy name. So by chanting the holy name, we are worshiping Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Temple worship cannot continue, cannot go on without worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So everything begins with a mantra and everything ends with a mantra. So therefore, by chanting this mantra in worshiping Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we will develop Madhurya Ras. And actually, the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we are simply promoting Madhurya Ras. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is in that mellow, he's experiencing that mellow. He's in that mood of Srimati Radharani, and that is a conjugal ras. So the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition is actually pursuing this Madhurya Ras. By chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is actually coming from the Goloka Vrindavan. And it is the way by which the Supreme Lord is glorified in Goloka Vrindavan. So anyone chanting this Hare Krishna in the worship of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually cultivating Madhurya Ras. So by intensifying our practice, we will develop spontaneous love for the deity. And by hearing more and more about the exchange of loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis, we'll become attracted to this conjugal ras, and gradually we would become advanced in this practice of conjugal mellow. So Mahaprabhu has given us the process by which we can become very, very intimate with the Lord by chanting the holy names of the Lord. And that's why every devotee must take this japa very seriously. We cannot claim to be devotees if we are not chanting. If we are not chanting our japa of a minimum of 16 rounds every day, then our claim is false, because we are devotees because we are chanting the names of Krishna. And by chanting the names of Krishna, we're worshiping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by worshiping Mahaprabhu, we are developing the Madhurya Ras. And eventually, we'll end up in the spiritual sky where we can serve Krishna in this Ras. So we go to the next, 64, the two divisions of conjugal love. The next slide, the two divisions of conjugal love. So the conjugal love is divided into two classifications, namely conjugal love as husband and wife, and conjugal love as lover and the beloved. One who develops conjugal love for Krishna as a wife is promoted to Dwaraka, where the devotee becomes the queen of the Lord. One who develops conjugal love for Krishna as a lover is promoted to Goloka Vrindavan to associate with the gopis and enjoy loving affairs with Krishna there. We should note carefully, however, that this conjugal love for Krishna, either as a gopi or as a queen, is not limited only to women. Even men can develop such sentiment, as was evidenced by the sages of Dandakranya. If someone simply desires conjugal love, but does not follow in the first steps of the gopis, he is promoted to associate with the Lord at Dwaraka. So we touched upon this yesterday, that let's call it this our National Purana. Ruchi, excuse me, Prabhu, some important call is coming. I have to tell him that I'll call him back. Excuse me, Prabhu, a minute. I have to inform somebody. He's calling me so over and over again. Hare Krishna, Nana. Hare Krishna. All glories to Gurudev Vaishnava Prabhupada. Yeah. I'm back. It's a very important call, which is only coming again and again and again. So I just have to let you know that. So sorry for the interruption. Here we see that conjugal love is divided into two. The queens, that is called Swakiya. The queens of Indwaraka, they are Swakiya, and the gopis in Vrindavan, they practice Parakiya. So there are two divisions. We have Parakiya and Swakiya. Parakia is the unmarried, unwedded love, and the swakia is the wedded love. So, but of the two, it is said that the parakia is superior. The unwedded love is superior. So yesterday we're talking that the gopis, they're in the mood of friends of Krishna. They're in that mood that they're friends of Krishna. And so they serve Krishna in that capacity, and they give Krishna the highest pleasure. But the queens, they're also practicing Madhurya Ras, but then that is called Swakiya, where Krishna lives with them as wives. So here it is mentioned that one does not really have to become a woman in order to practice this parakia or swakiya bhava. And the example is the sages of Dandakaranya. When the sages in Dandakaranya, they saw Lord Ram and his beauty, they were attracted to the beauty of Lord Ram. So Lord Ram promised them that in his incarnation as Krishna, they would get a chance to enjoy the relationship as gopis. So it is said that some of the gopis of Krishna in Vrindavan were actually the sages of the forest of Dandakaranya, who had they had conjugal feelings towards Lord Ram, and at that time they were men, and so it was not possible for them to have that relationship with Lord Ram. So Lord Ram benedicted them. He gave them the boon that in his next appearance in the material world, they would have the appropriate opportunity to serve him in conjugal love. So all of those sages, they became the entourage of Krishna in Vrindavan. All of them became gopis. So one can actually develop this Madhurya Ras even as a man. But eventually, if one has to go back to the spiritual world, then one either has to become a gopi in the spiritual world, or he has to become a queen in Dwaraka. So it is said here that if somebody simply desires conjugal love but does not follow in the footsteps, if you don't follow in the footsteps of the gopis, then you end up in Dwaraka. You know, the spiritual world is divided into different parts. And it said there is an area for Dwaraka, there's an area Vrindavan, there is an area Mayapur, and so accordingly, according to a mood of service, a mood of love, the devotees are sent to different locations of the spiritual sky, spiritual world. So those who don't follow in the footsteps of the gopis, they are promoted to the section of the Goloka Vrindavan called Dwaraka, where they can become queens of Krishna. And those who follow the footsteps of the gopis, they are promoted to Goloka Vrindavan itself, where they can become girlfriends of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in Madhurya Ras or Madhurya Sringara, there are two divisions, which is also known as Vipralamba and Sambhoga. Vipralamba means loving in separation, and Sambhoga means meeting to exchange loving feelings. And then it is said that the Parakiya Bhava enhances Vipralamba because the Parakiya, or the friendship, they don't stay with Krishna. So sometimes Krishna is present and sometimes Krishna is absent. And so this absence increases the intensity of their love, like we see in the case of Srimati Radharani. Then in the Swakiya enhances Sambhoga Bhava, because the Swakiya means you are always meeting. The husband and wife are always together. So that it brings the meeting. And so Swakiya promotes Samboga, and Parakiya promotes Vipalamba. So we can move on to the next slide, slide 65. Oh, Hare Krishna. Krishna. From the pure heart, there is diffusion of ecstatic love. By the process of executing regulated devotional service, one is actually elevated onto the transcendental stage, beyond the material modes of nature. At that time, one's heart becomes illuminated like the sun. When a devotee is purified like the sun, from his pure heart, there is a diffusion of ecstatic love, which is more glorious than the sunshine. Only at that time is the attachment to Krishna perfect. Spontaneously, the devotee becomes eager to serve the Lord in his ecstatic love. At this stage, the devotee is on the platform of Uttama Adhikari, perfect devotion. Such a devotee has no agitation from material affection and is interested only in the service of Radha and Krishna. So this is the perfect stage, or the stage of perfection, whereby the devotee becomes very much attached to Krishna, Radha and Krishna. His attachment, there's no attachment for anything else. He thinks of Krishna 24 hours. He's absorbed in Krishna 24 hours. And such a devotee is called the Uttama Adhikari. Yesterday we were talking about Raganuga and Ragatmika. Raganuga is a perfected devotee, but he has not reached the ultimate level of absorption in Krishna. But the Ragatmika, they for 4 hours, they can't think of anything else except Krishna. So this platform of Ragatmika is that one's heart becomes like the sunshine. In his heart, there is a diffusion of ecstatic love, which is even more glorious than the sun. Only at this time that one has perfect attachment to the Supreme Lord. Only at this time one cannot think of anything else but only Krishna. So, in the prayer of Nanda Maharaj, he says, Manaso Vritayo Nasur Krishna Padam Bujashrayaha. Vidayanir Namnam Kayastat Pravaniju. Nanda Maharaj is telling the cowhead men that our mental functions always take shelter of Krishna lotus feet. Our words always glorify the names of the Lord. Bodies fall in obeisances to the Lord, and may our lives be fully dedicated to the service of Krishna. So they are on this platform. Nanda Maharaj and the residents of Vrindavan, they're on this platform. So they are fully absorbed. They can't think of anything else except Krishna. 24 hours, they are thinking about Krishna. The gopis are thinking about Krishna. The cowhead men are thinking about Krishna. The elderly gopis, elderly cowhead men, they're all thinking about Krishna. Krishna is a cynosol. When Krishna is going to the forest with the cows, all the elderly gopis and gopals, they just fix their mind on Krishna until Krishna disappears into the forest. And then as soon as Krishna appears in the evening, he's coming, everybody's attention is on Krishna. They're so absorbed in Krishna that they can't think of anything else but Krishna. The gopis are lamenting during the day that Krishna is in the forest enjoying with the cowherd boys, and during the night when the Krishna goes out with the gopis for his rasa dance, then the cowherd boys are lamenting at night that they're missing Krishna's association. So everyone is intensely thinking about Krishna. And so their hearts are as bright as the sunlight because of the love they have developed for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so on that stage, one cannot think of anything else except Krishna. So that is the platform of Uttama Adhikari, first class devotee. We can move on to the next slide. Slide 66. Somebody like to read this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I never pronounce.
Please read.
Slide 66. The progressive path to pure devotional service. Narada tells there of his previous life and how he developed to the stage of ecstatic love. He was engaged in the service of great devotees and used to hear their talks and songs. Because he had the opportunity to hear these pastimes and songs of Krishna from the mouth of pure devotees, he became very attracted within his heart. Because he had become so eager to hear these topics, he gradually developed within himself an ecstatic love for Krishna. This ecstatic love is prior to the pure love of Krishna. Therefore, in the next verse, Narada confirms that by the gradual process of hearing from the great sages, he developed love of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this process, this progressive path of pure devotional service is what we are all pursuing at the moment. And Narada's example is there to inspire us. Narada was an ordinary child of a maidservant. In India, a maidservant has no status. Maidservant is just like a house girl. He has no status. He has no social status. And generally, such maidservants, they are kind of exploited because people use them and dump them. So Narada happens to be a child from this maidservant. It's a very low birth, strictly speaking, because even the girl cannot identify the man who has given her the seed, who has impregnated her. So Narada has no father. But his good fortune is that the mother was serving these Bhakti Vedantas. The Bhakti Vedantas, they are traveling monks, traveling sannyasis, traveling sadhus. And so when they came to the place where Narada and his mother were, it was a time for Chaturmasya. And so they had to stay there for 4 months without going anywhere. In India, during the month of Chaturmasya, people don't travel, especially the saintly people. They just stay in one place and they just intensify their sadhanas, they intensify their practice of Krishna consciousness. They intensify their chanting, they intensify their hearing, they intensify their bhajans. And for 4 months continuously, they would do these things. So that was Narada's great fortune, that these Bhakti Vedantas had stopped over at the end to spend the 4 months of Chaturmasya. And then they engaged his mother in serving them, washing for them, cooking for them, and so on and so forth. So Narada had the opportunity to associate with these Bhakti Vedantas. You will hear them recite the scriptures, you will hear them perform bhajans, and then sometimes, with their permission, he would accept the remnants of the prasadam, and by so doing, Narada was becoming purified, even though he took a very low birth, a son of a maidservant, but by the association with the Bhakti Vedantas, Narada Muni became advanced in this process of Krishna consciousness, just by hearing, just by association, and just by accepting their Shadam. Chaitanya Charitamrita says that there are 3 important elements, artifacts from the Vaishnava that can purify us. The dust from the lotus feet of the Vaishnava, the water from the lotus feet of the Vaishnava, the prasad, the remnants of food eaten by the Vaishnava. These are considered very powerful. And that by coming in touch with these three items, one can make progress on the path of spiritual life. Another is an example of that. He had an opportunity. He had an opportunity to hear the Bhagavatam from these people. He had an opportunity to take the remnants of the Prasadam. He had an opportunity to render some service to them. And by so doing, he became pure. And then when the Bhaktivedantas left, Providence took up. His mother was bitten by a snake and she died. Another was just a young boy and 5-year-old boy, but he was so attracted to Krishna, he decided to travel on his own and then so he can make progress. So it is said that one who hears the description of Lord Janardhana's pastime, glorious qualities, whose bodily hair fails to bristle in ecstasy, and whose eyes fail to flood with tears of pure love, such a person is degraded. In other words, when we had the opportunity to hear from great devotees, when we had the opportunity to see the remnants of prasad from great devotees, when we had the opportunity to associate with great devotees, and it doesn't affect us, it doesn't change our mind, it doesn't affect our heart, there is no inclination to Krishna consciousness, then that is very unfortunate. So,
Krishna Rasa Vilas Prabhu. Okay.
Hare Krishna. So, so Narada is an example of a progressive devotee, and we are also on the path of progressive devotional service by hearing, by associating, by getting the remnants of the pure devotees. We are all on that royal path of progressive bhakti, and if we take advantage of it, then we can make progress to the ultimate goal, which is love of Godhead. We can move to the next slide, slide 67. Somebody like to read this? Slide 67. Okay, he's sharing.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, you can read.
Hearing from great devotees, the easiest way to overcoming the moods. First, I pass my days in the association of the great sages during the raining autumn season. Every morning and evening, I heard them while they were singing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And thus my heart gradually became purified. As soon as I heard them with great attention, the influence of the modes of material ignorance and passion disappeared, and I became firmly fixed in devotional service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So the modes of nature are our challenge. The modes of nature are disturbing us so much so that it is, Tandara Justamo Bhava Karma Nobadayas Chaye Cheta Etai Anavridam Stitam Satve Prasidati. That by regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, by regularly rendering service to the Lord, by associating with the devotees, by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, by chanting the Maha Mantra, the effects of the nature's modes of passion and ignorance which manifest as lust, desire, and hankering, they disappear from the heart of the devotee. Then the devotee is established in goodness and becomes completely happy. Therefore, the hearing process is so important for everyone. Pravishta karna radrena swanam bhava saroruham dunoti shamalam Krishna slasya yata sharat slasya yata sharat. The hearing process is compared to the autumnal rains. During the rainy season, all the lakes become very muddy. But during autumn, there are special rains during autumn. And these autumnal rains makes the lakes of water clear. So it is said the sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, when it enters the heart of a devotee and sits on the lotus of the flower of loving relationships, it cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, hankering, and so on. Thus, it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. So this hearing process is important, and Narada Muni is talking about it here. Now, I first passed my days in the association of the great sages during the rainy autumn season. Every morning and evening, I heard them while they were singing and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Not only that, they are also reciting the scriptures. And thus my heart gradually became purified. And as soon as I heard them with great attention, that is a qualification. Attention, great attention, hearing with great attention. That is what is called Pravishta Karna Randrina. Pravishta Karna Randrina. Hearing with attention. Receiving the knowledge with attention. Karna Piyusham. Hearing with a transcendental ear. There are different levels of hearing. But when we hear attentively, then the message sinks deep into the heart. And that kind of message has effect on the heart. So Narada is mentioning here that he heard them with great attention. So we have to hear with great attention. If we are doing something else during the Bhagavatam, or we are doing something else while we are doing japa, that means we are not giving great attention. Sometimes we are chanting japa and we are doing WhatsApp. Sometimes we are in the Bhagavatam class and we are doing WhatsApp. These cannot be described as great attention. Great attention means nothing matters. Everything else is put aside and we just concentrate on the sound vibration, whether it is the Bhagavatam class or the holy name. So this attentive hearing, attentive chanting, that is the solution to the problems. Whoever is doing this attentive hearing and attentive chanting, he would definitely make progress in Krishna consciousness. So Narada Muni is an example of that. He gave great attention to hearing the chanting and discussions about Krishna from the Bhakti Vedantas. And so what happened? The influence of the modes of material nature, influence of ignorance and passion disappeared and became firmly fixed in devotional service. So this is the path of progressive bhakti. By associating with devotees, And by attentively hearing them, serving them, definitely one can make progress on the path of bhakti. It is said that the bhakti grows from the heart of the devotees. The origin of bhakti is the heart of the devotee, the pure devotees, advanced devotees. So therefore, we must hear from them. By hearing from them, we receive the seed of bhakti. Just by hearing, we receive the seed of bhakti into our own hearts. The seed of bhakti is planted in our own hearts. And by further hearing, it is nourished. And then the bhakti lata bij begins to grow. It germinates and begins to grow. So it is important that we give great attention to hearing. Next slide, 68.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
In respect to this last explanation, there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which says that when one engages in pious activities in previous life and present, when it becomes purified from sinful reactions, then he engages in devotional service with great determination. Now, we're talking about attentive hearing. That great determination for devotional service can be described as a level of goodness. But my question now is, in between freedom from sinful activities and hearing from the great sages or the pure devotees, what is the difference? Because pious activities purify one, they remove sinful activities, then one engages in devotional service. So what is the difference between that pious activities and this hearing from the great sages? Because both gives, from the explanation, gives almost same result. By hearing from the Bhaktivedantas, one develops mood of goodness and develops attachment to Krishna. And by when engages in pious activities also, he becomes free from sin. Also, he engages in the great determination. So I wanted to throw light on that.
Yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Harinam Chintamani and in Bhakti Lok, he also mentions how there are different kinds of Sukritis. We have Boga Yumukha Sukriti, pious activity that gives you a lot of material assets in the next life. And then we have Jnana Yumukha Sukriti, that pious activities that give you the chance to study the scriptures very deeply. And then we have Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti that allows you to practice Krishna consciousness. So even the Sukritis are talking about, they're on different levels. So when one accumulates Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti, that is pious credits on the path of devotion, that is doing some service to a devotee, assisting some preaching activity, unconsciously doing some seva. This brings you to the platform of devotional service. So pious activities depends on the intensity of the piety. Certain pious activities will only give you great wealth in your next life. Certain pious activity will give you great intelligence for study in the next life. But the best of pious activity is that pious activity that brings you in touch with devotional service. So I think that Krishna is talking about that Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti, that Sukriti that brings you to devotional service. So if you have that devotion, that pious activity, If you accumulate a lot of that pious activity, it helps you in connecting with Krishna consciousness, and it helps you to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Now, like in the case of Narada, even though he was born in a very low family, but it means that he has cultivated some of this Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti. And that is why somehow or the other, he came across these Bhakti Vedantas, and his devotional service began. So for one to actually come in touch with Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada also said the same thing, that one must have cultivated some piety in a previous life. Otherwise, one cannot get in touch with Krishna consciousness. And of course, we all know that it's a progressive path. Yes, a progressive path that wherever we reach in this lifetime, will continue in the next lifetime. So when one's cultivate this Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti, he actually becomes free from reactions, becomes free from sinful activities, and then only can he get connected to Krishna consciousness. So it is that Bhakti Yumukha that brings one in touch with devotional service, and actually Krishna also says, until one is free from sinful activities, one cannot be attracted to Krishna consciousness. I think in Bhagavad Gita also, 9th chapter somewhere, he also mentions Agapapanam, that one is free from sinful reactions. One is not attracted to the path of bhakti. So it is true that by cultivating Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti, one decreases his sinful reactions, and that brings him in touch with Krishna consciousness. And then from there, he can now hear, he can now participate, he can now be serious. Of course, that also depends on how much Bhakti Yumukha Sukriti he has cultivated. There are also different levels of that. If one has much of that, then definitely he will become more serious, more attentive, and then he will make much more progress than one who does not have that amount of Yumukha Sukriti. So everything is based on quality. How much, what is the quality of our Sukriti? So can we move on?
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you for the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. So we can move on to 69. We have not, we are just reading the 68. Yeah, 68. We have not treated 68. 68. It says sudden development of devotional attitude due to special mercy of Krishna. Yes. Sometimes, however, it is found that without undergoing any devotional process, one all of a sudden develops devotion for Lord Krishna. This sudden development of the devotional attitude in a person must be understood as special mercy of Krishna or his devotees. This apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings through the causeless mercy of Krishna can be divided into 3 groups: simply by speaking, simply by glancing, simply by good wishes. So this is another area. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned, Sadhu Sangha Krishna Kripa Bhaktira Swabhava Etine Sabachadaya Kare Krishna Bhava, that association with a devotee, the mercy of Krishna, and the nature of devotional service help one to give up undesirable association and gradually attain elevation to the platform of love of Godhead. So 3 things are mentioned here. Sadhu Sangha, association with the devotee; Krishna Kripa, the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead; and Bhakti Swabhava. Bhakti Swabhava means the very nature of Bhakti, the very nature of Krishna consciousness. So, and that is what is being mentioned here, that sometimes it may appear that one has not undergone the gradual developmental process of devotional service, but all of a sudden, he is in love with Krishna. So how does that happen? So Prabhupada mentions here, this apparently accidental. It's an apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings through the causeless mercy of Krishna. So it is only by the causeless mercy of Krishna or the devotees. And this happened by means of speaking, by means of glancing, or by means of good wishes. So by having the darshan of the pure devotee, by hearing them speak, or by their good wishes of the devotee or Krishna, one can also develop a starting love for Krishna. This is a special concession, just like an honorary PhD. We cannot say because the university is giving honorary PhDs, so I won't go to school. I will wait until I get that honorary PhD. It may not happen. So in the same way, these are special concessions that sometimes Krishna awards a starting love to an unqualified person, somebody who is not going through the process. Or sometimes the pure devotee, just by glancing at the conditioned soul, he wishes that conditioned soul advancement, and Krishna gives the advancement. So this happens, but the general process is we must practice sadhana, we must practice Vaidhi Bhakti, we must practice Raganuga Bhakti in order to develop the Raganuga tendencies, and then finally we come to the platform of Ragatmika Bhakti. So, but sometimes a person who does not have the qualification, like even the case of this Kubja, the example of Kubja also. Kubja was a society girl, so to speak, like a prostitute. He was supplying sandalwood to Kamsa. It was Kamsa's society girl. But when he saw Krishna and was attracted to Krishna, actually was attracted to Krishna on lusty grounds. But Krishna gave him love of Godhead. Krishna, just by smiling at her, just by looking at her, immediately Krishna awarded her a great benediction. And so finally, when Krishna went to her house and touched her chin, she gave up all the lust. All the lust was gone. All the sinful nature of her was gone. And she became an exalted Vaishnavi and a worshiper of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes Krishna or his pure devotee, they award even to award love of Godhead to even to an unqualified candidate. But that is Krishna's mercy. That is the pure devotee's mercy. And anytime he decides, he can do that. But we should not expect that this will just happen to us. So we must go through the process of sadhana and praying for Krishna's mercy, so that if Krishna at any point gives us his mercy, then that would be great. So here we have to understand that sometimes these things happen, but it is not a normal route. The normal route is that one must perform sadhana bhakti and gradually become elevated and become perfected, and then the love of God will then come. So we go to 69. So the characteristics of one in ecstatic love. So these are the characteristics of one who is in ecstatic love, one who is on a platform of bhava, These are the characteristics. He is always anxious to utilize his time in devotional service. This is called avyakta kalatum. Avyakta kalatum. He is always anxious to utilize his time in devotional service. He does not waste his time for any frivolous activities. In fact, I can say that I observed this in the life of Bhakti Tita Maharaj. I have served Bhakti Tita Maharaj from 81 to 2004 when I met him last in Mayapur. I've never seen Bhakti Tita Maharaj for the 23, 24 years I've served him. I've never seen him idling. I've never got his room to see Maharaj spaced out with his mind in the air or even sleeping. I think once I saw him lying down and he told me that he was having some malaria. And so he was feeling feverish and then he just took some short nap. So that was the only time out of the 24 years I've known him, I only saw him taking rest in the afternoon once. And then he himself told me that I was feeling feverish from malaria, so he had to even take some malaria tablets to rectify the situation. But I noticed that he was always absorbed. You go to his room, he's either reading, he's chanting, he's preaching, writing, he's always doing something for Krishna. So that is a symptom of bhava. One who is on the bhava platform, he never wastes time for anything else except for Krishna. So that is called avyarta kalatvam. Kalatvam, he never wastes his time. Kala means time. He never wastes time in anything else. He is always reserved and perseverant. Always reserved and perseverant. So he is described as Shanti. Shanti means very peaceful. And reserved, he's peaceful, he's never agitated by any circumstance. And I can also say, yes, I've seen that in Bhakti Tita Maharaj. Even when some of his godbrothers were criticizing him, calling him ill names, I read the thing on the internet and I was furious. I went to Maharaj. At that time, we were in the US. I was in Gittinagri. So I went to him in his house. And I said, Maharaj, I've read something on the internet and I feel very disturbed. I want to reply that devotee. And Maharaj said, don't do it. He said, keep off. He says, you have no authority. You have no qualification to get involved in cases between me and my godbrothers. You have no qualification. Don't commit offense and destroy your bhakti. So he was very peaceful. He said, I've seen all that. It doesn't bother me because what they're saying, I'm not connected to that. So it is over to them. Krishna will take care of them. He was so peaceful. So when he spoke like that, I just immediately dropped the whole thing on the ground. I didn't pursue it anymore. So he's a devotee on the platform of Bhava. He's very peaceful, Shanti. He's very reserved and he's always very perseverant. Nothing will stop him from practicing Krishna consciousness. The third one is he's always detached from all material attraction. This is called virakti. Virakti means detachment. So one who is on the Bhava platform, he's already relishing his relationship with Krishna. He's already relishing the bliss of Krishna consciousness within his heart. And therefore, external things do not matter to him. He becomes completely detached. Material attraction does not touch him because he is relishing his internal relationship. He's relishing his relationship with Krishna a blissful relationship with Krishna, and therefore external things do not matter to him. One who is having an external vision, one who is still attracted to the material world, attracted to the objects of the material energy, he becomes attracted. But one who has attraction for Krishna, attraction for the soul, attraction for spiritual activities, spiritual life, his attraction for Maya decreases. And that is a fact. It is said that to the degree that we are attracted to Krishna, to that degree we are unattached to matter. And to the degree we are attached to matter, to that degree we are not attached to Krishna. So we have to intensify our attachment to Krishna. By intensifying our attachment to Krishna, naturally we decrease our attachment to matter. So it is one of the symptoms of bhava. One on the platform of bhava is completely aloof from this material energy because he's relishing his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Item number 4 says he does not long for any material respect in return for his activities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches in the 3rd stanza of the Shishastikam, Trinarapi Sunichena Taro Api Sahis Nuna Amanena Mana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari. So Lord Chaitanya says to qualify ourselves to chant the holy names constantly, regularly, then we must cultivate an attitude of humility. Trinarapi, one has to be very humble. Taro api, one must be very tolerant. So one has to be humble like a blade of grass, and one has to be as tolerant as a tree. Then one can chant the holy names constantly. Kirtaniya Sada Hari. If we want to chant the holy names nicely, constantly, blissfully, then one has to have the attitude of a blade of grass, and one has to have the attitude of a tree. That a tree, even though they cut him down, he does not protest. And a blade of grass, even though you step on his head, he does not protest. So one who is on the platform of bhava, he does not care for material respect. He will always respect others. But whether they return the respect or not, it doesn't bother him. It is said that one who is always running after respect, he cannot become Krishna conscious. One who gives so much regard to material respect, it means he's grossly attached to fame and name. Fame and name, these are deadly enemies. Fame and name, but that is the material culture. Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be called good names. Everybody wants to be seen as a good person. And so whatever we do, we want to be praised. Whatever we do, we want to be glorified. And if the glorification is not coming, if the praises are not coming, we are disturbed and we even want to give up the service. So this is not bhakti, it is maya. So here, one who is on the platform of bhava is not he does not demand respect in return for his activities. He simply wants to serve Krishna. He wants to please Krishna. He wants to please his guru, and that is all that he's interested in. That is called mana sunyata. Mana sunyata. pridelessness. He feels very humble. He feels very meek. He just wants to render some service. And number 5, he is always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. And that is called Ashabandha. Ashabandha. Ashabandha means he is always very hopeful. He's always very hopeful. Actually, we should all be very hopeful that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon us. Ashabandha. Hoping against hope. He has a firm faith that Krishna will deliver him to the highest perfection of life. Though he might feel highly unqualified, utterly unqualified, but he has firm faith in Krishna that Krishna would deliver his mercy. Krishna would award his mercy. So that is what should keep us going. That Krishna is watching what we are doing. Krishna is seeing what we are doing. Krishna is taking note of what we are doing. And at the appropriate time, Krishna will deliver us from this material world. He will give us that love of Godhead that we are aspiring for. So the devotee is always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. 6, he is always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. His eagerness to serve the Lord is described as samutkanta. Samutkanta. He is very eager to serve the Lord. So this eagerness is called lolium. Lolium. The greed to serve Krishna, the greed to hear the glories of Krishna, the greed to chant the holy names, the greed to speak about Krishna. These are required. We must develop that greed. In material existence, we develop greed for so many things. Material life means greed for name, greed for fame, greed for material possessions, greed for wealth, greed for, that is the competition in the material world. Everybody is competing for something material, but that will take us nowhere. At the end of the day, when we have to leave this world, all that we have struggled to accumulate, we leave it behind. Of course, if we use them in the service of Krishna, then we increase our love for Krishna. We increase our credit. We increase our spiritual credits. And we acquire these things for the service of Krishna, for the service of Vaishnavas, then it is great. But if we just acquire them because we want to make name and make fame and make the people know that we are so important, we are so great, at the time of death, everything is left behind. And how it will be utilized, you have no idea. Even sometimes your enemy takes over your property and insults you on top after he has inherited your property. So therefore, a devotee is always eager to render service to the Lord. He sees the service of the Lord as his goal of life. And whatever it takes him to render the service, he's ready. If he has to give up the world to render service to the Lord, he's ready. If he has to work very hard to make money and use it in service of Krishna, he's ready. Whatever will please the Lord, the devotee is ready to do that. That is called samutkanta. He is very eager, he is very greedy to do those things just to satisfy the Lord. 7, he is very much attached to chanting the holy names of the Lord. Yeah, this chanting is very important. It's called Nam Gane Sadaruchi. Nam Gane Sadaruchi. Constant attraction to the holy name. One who is on the Bhava platform, one who is experiencing ecstasy in devotional service. The holy name is his best friend, is his companion, like we see in the case of Srila Haridas Thakur. out of the 24 hours a day, he will use 22 hours for chanting. He cannot stop chanting. Even when he's asleep, the 2 hours of rest, he dreams of chanting. A devotee is active 24 hours. When he's awake, he is engaged in practical devotional service. And when he sleeps, he dreams of devotional service. There's a story of Sikhi Mahiti. Sikhi Mahiti was the associate of Lord Chaitanya. So he said that he's always in the Lord's association. And when he goes to sleep, he's always dreaming about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many devotees like that. So one day he was even having a nap in the afternoon. He had a nap in the afternoon, a short sleep in the afternoon. And in that sleep, he dreamed of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He dreamed that Lord Chaitanya was standing in front of Lord Jagannath in the Jagannath temple. And so that was a dream. He was in a dream, he was just seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu standing in front of the Garuda Stamba, and he was viewing Lord Jagannath. And so he saw that dream. Then he woke up. When he woke up, he immediately took a bath and wanted to ascertain whether what he was dreaming was true or false. He took a bath and ran to the temple, and the dream was confirmed. When he got to the temple, Mahaprabhu was standing in front of the Garuda Stamba, and he had fixed his mind on Lord Jagannath. So the devotee, when he's awake, he's chanting, he's reading, he's preaching, he's doing something for Krishna. And even when he sleeps, he dreams of devotional service. So that is a person who is on the Bhava platform. 8, he is always eager to describe the transcendental glories of the Lord. This is called Ashakti Tat Guna Kyane. Ashakti Tat Guna Kyane. When one is eager to render service, when he's eager to describe the glories of the Lord, he's addicted. There is also addiction in Krishna consciousness. When we are addicted to chanting, we are addicted to hearing, we are addicted to preaching, we are addicted in some service. That is a sign that we are coming to the Bhava platform. We cannot survive. We cannot exist without rendering the service. When a devotee gets to a platform, when chanting becomes compulsory, nobody is forcing him, but he himself, he notices that without doing japa, he feels empty. Without reading, he feels empty. Without hearing, he feels empty. It means we are coming to the Bhava platform. So a devotee is always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. He wants to preach. He wants to spread Krishna's mission. He's eagerly looking for opportunity to do that. It means the first person is coming to the Bhava platform. And then the last characteristic is that he is very pleased to live in the place of the pastimes of the Lord. This is Priti Tat Vashati Stale. Priti Tat Vashati Stale means the holy dam of the Lord, the holy place of the Lord's appearance. So a devotee should also be eager to live in a place where the Lord has appeared, or where the Lord is worshipped, or one can convert his house, one can transform his house into a holy place by installing deities and by having a full program at home, worshiping the deities, offering them nice prasadam, nice bhoga, and then doing kirtan and speaking about the Lord. Immediately that place becomes as good as Mathura, Vrindavan, Mayapur, and one can live in such a holy place. So the 9 characteristics of one in the starting love, or one on the Bhava platform, are listed in this slide. If there are any questions, we can answer. If there are no questions, we move to slide 70. It's already 8:36. We have 1 hour to go, and we still have 15 slides to cover. So If there are questions, then we can briefly answer them. If there are no questions, we move ahead to slide 17. Somebody like to read this?
Utilization of time. An unalloyed devotee who has developed a static love for Krishna is always engaging his words in reciting prayers to the Lord. Within the mind, he is always thinking of Krishna. And with his body, he either offers obeisances by bowing down before the deities or engages in some other service. During these ecstatic activities, he sometimes sheds tears. In this way, his whole life is engaged in the service of the Lord, with not a moment wasted on any other engagement.
Yeah, so the first symptom of bhava is utilization of time. Everyone in this one is given 24 hours a day. Everyone is given 24 hours a day. But how we utilize this wealth? Time is wealth. I said time is money. Time is how we utilize our time determines how we progress in this world. People utilize their time very usefully, they become wealthy. Similarly, devotees utilize their time in glorifying the Lord, preaching about the Lord, chanting his holy names, doing something for the Lord, and they become very advanced. So time can be used for the accumulation of material wealth, and time can be used for the accumulation of spiritual wealth. And that spiritual wealth is bhava, love of Godhead. That is the greatest wealth. In a discussion between Ramananda Raya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Raya, now who is the greatest capitalist in this world? And Ramananda Raya immediately answered that a devotee of Krishna is the greatest capitalist. Because if you have Krishna, you have everything. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, mata smriti jnanam. What is it? Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Then everything comes from him. Both the spiritual and material wealth, they come from him. So Krishna is the owner of everything we see, and even those things we don't see. He's the owner. He's the owner of the spiritual wealth, and he's the owner of the material wealth. So if one somehow or the other captures Krishna, if somehow or the other we attract Krishna, then it means that the whole creation, both spiritual and material, becomes your property. So if we just attract Krishna, if by our devotion, by our devotional activities we attract Krishna, then we are the best capitalists, because we have both assets, material assets and spiritual assets. So therefore, a devotee must utilize his time very judiciously in Krishna consciousness. And that will reward him very much. Just like a businessman does not want to waste a moment of his time for anything else. He has a whole plan, and he's following them very rigidly so that he can make more money, he can succeed in his business. Similarly, a devotee is always conscious that time is for Krishna, and that time must be properly utilized in Krishna's service. So it's a symptom of advancement, one who does not want to waste his time in frivolous activities. He wants to use his time in glorifying the Lord, in preaching about the Lord, in chanting the glories of the Lord, in serving the Lord. Such a devotee should be understood to be approaching the Bhava platform when he no more wants to waste his time in anything else, but in the service of the Lord. It should be understood that such a devotee is becoming very advanced. Slide 71. Somebody can read this.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
This is my humble obeisances. Slide 71.
Yes.
Attachment to residing in Mathura or Vrindavan. A pure devotee of Lord Kanhaiya resides in the district of Mathura or Vrindavan and visits all places where Kanhaiya's pastimes were performed. At these sacred places, Kanhaiya displayed his childhood activities with cowherd boys and Mother Yashoda. The system of circumambulating all these places is still current among devotees of Krishna, and those coming from Mathura and Vrindavan always feel transcendental pleasure. Actually, if someone goes to Vrindavan, he will immediately feel separation from Krishna, who performed such nice activities when he was present there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. It says, by uttering the name Vrindavan, one attains the merit of chanting Krishna's holy name. By hearing the name of Vrindavan, one acquires the merit of hearing Krishna Lila. By touching the land of Vrindavan, one obtains the merit of saintly association. By smelling the fragrance of Vrindavan, one is blessed by the merit of smelling sweet fragrance of tulasi leaves offered to Lord Govinda. Sri Vrindavan is more purified than all the transcendental knowledge. It breaks the material desires of many births, like a mother takes no account of the offenses of its dependents, which is blissful with the touch of Sri Radha's feet. Anyone who smells a flower from Vrindavan, feels the breeze from Vrindavan, sees a person from Vrindavan, or somehow or the other bows down in the direction of Vrindavan, even by bowing down in the direction of Vrindavan, or once utters the auspicious name of Vrindavan, even if he dies in some place far away from Vrindavan, will at once attain the transcendental abode of Vrindavan. So we must develop some attachment for Vrindavan or Mathura. We must read more about Vrindavan, hear more about Vrindavan, chant more about Vrindavan, and just by doing that, one is guaranteed of going back home, back to Godhead. Next slide. Slide 72. Somebody like to read this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
And,
When the desire to love in a particular relationship intensifies, it becomes pure love. When one's desire to love Krishna in one's particular relationship becomes intensified, this is known as pure love of Godhead. In the beginning, a devotee is engaged in the regulative principles of devotional service by the order of his spiritual master. When one thereby becomes completely purified of all material contamination, there develops an attachment and taste for devotional service. This taste and attachment, when gradually intensified in the course of time, becomes love. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Rupa Goswami has given us an outline of the progressive march towards the goal, prema. First, one has to have some faith in Krishna, in God, and then he takes association of the saintly people, the devotees, and by taking association of devotees, then he gets to know about the process of bhakti. He accepts the lotus feet of the spiritual master, and he's engaged in the service of the Lord. And then he begins the process of purification, and then he becomes fixed up in Krishna consciousness. And when he becomes fixed up in Krishna consciousness, then he begins to develop taste. So this is important. It says that when one thereby becomes completely purified of all material contamination, there develops an attachment and taste for devotional service. This is very important. Developing attachment and taste. But to do that, one must be free from anarthas. Anartha nivritti is the very crucial stage in our practice of bhakti. When one becomes free from all kinds of anarthas. There are many anarthas that disturb us. Weakness of heart, attachment to matter, attachment to name, attachment to fame, attachment to profit, attachment to adoration, attachment to all these things. They are all anarthas that are blocking us from having the taste of Krishna consciousness. So when one is free from all these anarthas, this is called anartha nivritti. When one is able to free himself from all these anarthas, then one comes to a platform of nishta. He becomes fixed. And when one becomes fixed, then the next stage is ruchi. Ruchi means taste. So until we are free from contamination, there is no question of taste. Of course, Krishna is very kind that to indicate to us that we are dealing with something transcendental. We are dealing with a spiritual activity. Sometimes, even in our contaminated state, Krishna even allows us to have a taste of the holy name, to have a taste of Srimad Bhagavatam, to have a taste of kirtan, to have a taste of service to the deities, to have a taste of preaching. Krishna is very kind, that even though we are not free from the anarthas, sometimes he reveals to us the glory of these activities to encourage us. Just as we all know, when a person comes into Krishna consciousness, his taste is amazing. Taste for prasadam, taste for hearing, taste for association, taste for chanting, taste for every activity of Krishna consciousness in the beginning is very wonderful. That is Krishna's special mercy. But as we progress and become inattentive, become offensive, then that taste is taken away. But when one is free from contamination, when one transcends the anartha nivritti platform and comes to the platform of nishta, then again that taste will develop. But this taste is permanent. It's not like the shadow taste that Krishna gives us in the beginning. In the beginning, Krishna gives us some shadow taste so that we can see that this is a transcendental process. It's a transcendental program we are involving in, and that there is something we can gain from it. It gives us some faith. It gives us some conviction that what we are doing is wonderful. But we really have to come to the platform of anartha nivritti, the platform of nishta, then the real taste will come, and that taste becomes permanent. So that is what is required. And this one comes with intensity of practice. Sadhana Bhakti is divided into two, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti means we are following the orders of the Guru, we are following the orders of the scripture, even though we have no taste. But as we progress, we begin to value this process of bhakti, and so we begin to develop some attachment to it. And so without any instruction, we automatically want to practice. So as we intensify this practice of Raganuga Sadhana, then we come to the platform of actual Raganuga. Then the taste will come. So it's a science, and we have to follow the science in order to get a result. In a laboratory, if you mix the chemicals according to the formula, you will definitely get a result. 2 molecules of hydrogen plus 1 molecule of oxygen produces a molecule of water. So if we follow that, we'll get a result. So similarly, if we follow the process given to us by the acharyas, we will get a result. We will develop faith, we will develop love for Krishna, and we shall be very happy in this process. Next slide, 73. 73, development of ecstasy. A devotee, in the course of executing the regulatory principles of devotional service, develops his natural Krishna consciousness, and being thus softened at heart, he chants and dances like a madman. While performing chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he sometimes cries, sometimes talks widely, sometimes sings, and sometimes, without caring for any outsider, dances like a madman. So here, the ecstasy, of bhakti is described here. When one experiences that ecstasy of bhakti, he doesn't really care for social norms. When one experiences the ecstasy of bhakti, he is no more concerned about the outside world. As it is mentioned here, he behaves like a madman. He chants and dances like a madman. Radhanath Swami tells us about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's sannyas acceptance. He said when Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj accepted sannyas in 1979, he said the kirtan, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj danced in that kirtan so widely, so graciously, that his dhoti fell down. He danced so vigorously that his dhoti, when after he was awarded the sannyas, he danced so ecstatically that his dhoti went off. Only the kopens was left. But Maharaj was so sharp that he grabbed the dhoti mid-air and brought the dhoti back to its normal position. And only a few devotees, 2 or 3 devotees, noticed that his dhoti had dropped. But the majority of the people in the kirtan did not notice that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's dhoti had dropped because he danced like a madman. So here, once the ecstasy comes, one does not regard social norms. one behaves like a mad person because he's intoxicated with Krishna Bhava. Bhava Mritam, Krishna Bhava Mritam Yahi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a distributor of that Bhava. Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Bhava Mritam Hiyaha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the love of Krishna to everyone he met. And actually, he gave everyone that intoxication. He made everyone mad after Krishna. He himself was a madman. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was mad with the names of Krishna. He was dancing ecstatically, and anybody he came in touch with, he also gave him his madness. So a devotee who is experiencing transcendental happiness, transcendental bliss, he doesn't care for outsiders. He sings loudly, he dances ecstatically, he sheds tears. So that's the sign that he's actually experiencing some internal pleasure. Of course, we also have our what do you call monkey dance. Monkey dance, people dance monkey dance. That monkey dance is just to show how strong we are. It's just to attract some attention. His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj, His Holiness Mahavishnu Swami, they all condemn this our monkey dance. That they are not, when you watch, they don't even chant and dance. They close their eyes, they close their mouth, and they're just doing something. That is not dancing. That is a show of lust. Real dancing means we must chant, we must raise our hands, we must dance gracefully for the pleasure of Krishna. We're not dancing for our own pleasure. You have to dance for Krishna's pleasure. And when we do that monkey dance, it's just a show off that we are strong, we are powerful, we can break the ground, we can do this, we can do that. Yeah, we can break the ground for Krishna. Mahaprabhu, he said that when Mahaprabhu used to dance, it's like the universe is going to sink. When he danced, Lord Jagannath was attracted. Lord Jagannath was amazed how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would dance and the whole planet Earth would shake. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to dance, but he dances for the pleasure of Krishna. When we dance for the pleasure of Krishna, that is beautiful. That is wonderful. But when we dance just because we want to outdance somebody, or we want to show how powerful we are, or how we are great dancers, that is also another form of Maya. So the dancing should be for Krishna's pleasure. Next slide, 74. Appreciation of the Lord through the execution of regulatory principles. Generally, a devotee who has achieved the costless mercy of the Lord on account of following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service becomes attracted by the supreme greatness of the Lord, by the transcendental beauty of the Lord, and by the spontaneous execution of devotional service. To be more clear, by executing the regulatory principles of devotional service, one can fully appreciate the transcendental beauty of the Lord. In any case, such exalted positions are possible only by the extraordinary mercy of the Lord upon the devotee. So we mentioned earlier how devotional service depends on three factors. The association of devotees, sadhu sangha. It depends on Krishna Kripa, the mercy of Krishna, and it also depends on the very nature, Bhakti Swabhava, the very nature of Bhakti. Bhakti is blissful. Shushukam avyayam. Bhakti his nature is also blissful. And so therefore, of Bhakti, get the mercy of the devotees, get the mercy of the Lord, or sometimes Bhakti Devi also awards the living entity the opportunity of experiencing this wonderful pleasure of Krishna consciousness. So by the causeless mercy of the Lord, one is able to achieve the goal of bhakti. It says here that Shradhavam Bhagavati Sastri Nindam Anyatra Chapihi Manova Karma Dadamcha Satyam Samadhi Api. One should have faith that he will achieve all success in life by following the scriptures that describe the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, one should avoid blaspheming other scriptures. One should avoid blaspheming devotees. One should rigidly control his mind, control his speech, and bodily activities. And then one can easily get the mercy of Krishna. One can easily get the mercy of the devotees. One can easily get the mercy of Bhakti Devi. By rendering devotional service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. This confident, firm faith, favorable to discharge of devotional service is called Shraddha. Shraddha Sabde Vishaswa Srudida Nischaya. When one renders service to Krishna in confidence, with firm faith, in a favorable manner, this is called Shraddha. And this is required. Shraddha is required in achieving the goal of Krishna consciousness. One should have firm faith that he will achieve all success in life by following the scriptures that glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that Shraddha is required. Slide 75. Transcendental bliss drowns material miseries and happiness from the body or mind. My dear Supreme Goddess, you may know from me that any person who has developed the ecstasy of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is always merged in transcendental bliss on account of this love cannot even perceive the material distress or happiness coming from the body or mind. One who is always merged in transcendental bliss on account of this love cannot even perceive the material distress or happiness coming from the body or mind. Again, Haridas Thakur is an example. When Haridas Thakur was being beaten in 22 marketplaces, he was not feeling any pain. Why? Because he was absorbed in love of Godhead. Actually, he was rather praying for the constables, the sentries, the soldiers of the king who were beating him, because they were ordered to beat him until he was lifeless. They were to beat him until he was dead. Then the That was the order. But Haridas Thakur was not dying, despite the heavy beating. 10 men with big canes, whips, beating him and dragging him on the floor through 22 marketplaces. But Haridas was not feeling the pain. He was in ecstasy. He was into his internal consciousness. And so he was not feeling anything external. And so the sentries, their labor was not rewarding them. They could not kill Haridas by beating him. And so they were actually in trouble because the king said, if they don't kill him, they will be killed. If they don't beat Haridas to death, then they should not come back because he's going to execute them. So they were in great anxiety. So finally they realized that the guy cannot be killed. So they were in anxiety, and Haridas, he had concern for them. So he decided to enter into Samadhi because the more he remained externally conscious, the more they were in anxiety. So he withdrew his consciousness. He entered into Samadhi. And so they concluded, oh, now he's dead. And then they said, he's against Islam, he's against our tradition, so he should not even be buried. If you bury him, he will contaminate the earth because he's chanting Hare Krishna. We should throw him into a river so the water will carry him away from here. So that's how the Super Soul inspired them. And so they didn't bury Haridas. They threw him on the river. And as they threw Haridas in the river, he came out to his external consciousness, swam across the river, and began to chant Hare Krishna. And the news reached the king that Haridas, they said they are beaten to death. He has continued chanting Hare Krishna on the other side of the river. And all of them, they went and took shelter of Haridas. They realized that he must be an extraordinary personality. So all of them, they went and took shelter of Haridas. Of course, that is a very extreme case. But the point here is that if we increase our Krishna consciousness, we can overcome material distress coming from the body and mind. Because we are so much identified with the body and mind, so the pain becomes more severe. But if we become aloof from the body and mind by becoming more absorbed in the holy name, in Krishna's pastimes, the less we shall give attention to the body and mind, and the less we shall be harassed by this body, the miseries coming from the body and the mind. So spiritual bliss drowns material distress. It's a fact. It's a fact. Next slide, 76. The absolute truth is the personification of divine mellows. Rasovai sarasam hevayam labadananda bhavati koho hevayat kara paranayat ya desha akasha ananda nasyat esha hevanandayati. Lord Krishna is the embodiment of all ecstatic bliss. He is the reservoir of all pleasure. Having derived ecstasy from him, the individual souls become blissful. For who indeed could breathe? Who could be alive if this blissful Lord were not present within the hearts of all souls? He alone bestows ecstasy to all. This is a quotation from Taittiriya Upanishads. So the Lord is the personification of all divine mellows. The Lord is the embodiment of ecstatic bliss. Ananda Mayo Vyasat. Chin Ananda. Krishna is the embodiment of bliss. Is the embodiment of bliss. And so, by rendering service to Krishna, by hearing about Krishna, by chanting his names, by engaging in devotional service, we are associating with that divine bliss. We are associating with that intense spiritual bliss. And so, automatically, by association, we also become blissful. Just like if somebody sits near fire, he becomes warm. So by chanting Krishna's names, we are associating with Krishna. By hearing about Krishna's pastimes, we are associating with Krishna. By rendering some service, we are associating with Krishna. So therefore, by such association, we shall feel the warmth of ecstatic love. We should feel the effect of Krishna Bhava. But that depends on our attitude. Rupa Goswami says that advancement in the process of Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the practitioner. This is in the introduction of Upadeshamrita. The attitude, how seriously we are taking the process, how dedicated we are, how committed we are, how much we are, the degree to which we are practicing, the degree of involvement in Krishna consciousness. So the attitude matters. So we put up different attitudes, and so we get different results. So if we have the right attitude towards bhakti, right attitude towards service, then Krishna will definitely reciprocate. Krishna is very eager to reciprocate with the devotees. So whatever we are investing in our Krishna consciousness, Krishna will reciprocate. If we think of Krishna, Krishna will think of us. If we worship Krishna, we offer our obeisances to Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate with us. And as I said here, that is why Krishna is there as a super soul. Without Krishna, nothing happens. If Krishna is not there as a super soul, nothing happens. For who indeed could breathe, who could be alive if this blissful Lord were not present within the hearts of all souls? So Krishna is just there, accompanying the soul to grant our wishes, to witness our activities. So as soon as we have a serious attitude, we cultivate a serious attitude towards bhakti, Krishna is there as a super soul to reciprocate with us. So the attitude towards bhakti is a key for advancement. Slide 77. Slide 77. And this brings us to the 12 rasas, actually. The 12 rasas, the 5 primary rasas and the 7 secondary rasas. Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya, Madhurya Ras Nam. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Madhye E Pancha Pradhana. The chief transcendental mellows experienced with the Supreme Personality of Godhead are 5. Santa Ras, Dasya Ras, Sakya Ras, Vasalya Ras, and Madhurya Ras. So these are the 5 primary or principal rasas. If you go to the next slide, it talks about the 7 secondary rasas. Slide 78, the next slide. Harsya, Abhuta, Virya, Karuna, Rodra, Bibatsa, Vaya, Panchavida, Bhakti, Gaunya, Saptarasahaya. In addition to the 5 direct mellows, there are 7 indirect mellows known as laughter, wonder, chivalry, compassion, anger, disaster, and fear. So as I was saying yesterday, these things are described in more detail in the subsequent chapters. Even though we're ending our discussion with the 19th chapter, but if you read further, it discusses in detail examples of these laughter, wonder, chivalry, compassion, anger, disaster, fear, and all these are described. In the category of chivalry, Bhishma Dev is mentioned. Bhishma Dev's relationship with Krishna is, his rasta is that of chivalry. So the different devotees exhibit these different secondary rasas, but they are also rasas. So slide 79, definition of Santa Ras. Actually, 79 and 79 and 80 should be read together. 79 says, Vaishyamanai vibhavadyai saminam swadhyayatam gataha stai santi ratir derai santa bhakti rasa samataha prayasva shuka jaitam sukam syat atra yoginam Kintu atma sukyam aganam ganam tu isham mayam sukam tatrapisha swarupano bhavashyaru betutu behetuta dasya divam mano jantva liladerna tata mata. So the translation is the next slide, 80. When Shantarati, neutral attraction, exists continuously and is mixed with ecstatic emotion. And when the devotee relishes that neutral position, it is called Santa Bhakti Ras. Santa Bhakti Ras devotees generally relish the impersonal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since their taste of transcendental bliss is incomplete, it is called agana, or not concentrated. A comparison is made between ordinary milk and concentrated milk. When the same devotee goes beyond the impersonal and tastes the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form or as Sachit Ananda Vigraha, the taste is called concentrated. Ghana. That is transcendental bliss. So examples of this Santaras are the Kumaras, the Chatusanas, the 4 Kumaras, and the Navayogendras, the 9 sons of Rishabhadev, who became preachers. They are on the platform of Shanta. Shanta means incomplete development of transcendental bliss. So they experience the effulgence of the Lord. They experience the impersonal aspect of the Lord. But with further association of devotees, then they move away from this platform of incompleteness. They move away from the platform of impersonal realization, and they begin to render service. They experience the bliss of devotional service, and that brings them to the platform of Dasya. So the next one is Dasya Bhava, Dasya Ras, which is 81, slide 81, talks about Dasya Bhava. Attachment in Dasya Bhava. Amo chitai vibhava jai priti asra dhyayitam nitai chetasi bhaktana priti bhakti rasomataha anugrahi asya dasatwal liya twat api ayadvida vidyate sambrahma prito gaurava prita iti api. When according to his desire, the living entity develops love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this beginning stage of law is called Dasya Bhakti Ras. In other words, when a living entity develops attachment for service, that is, he rises from the platform of Shanta. Instead of just being satisfied with the impersonal aspect of the Lord, he now develops an attitude of service. So that attitude of service is called Dasya. So that means in Dasya, you can also find Santa, because one has to come to the platform of Santa in order to move to the platform of Dasya. So it is said that in Dasya Bhava, you can also find Santa Bhava. And that applies to all the other mellows. Dasya is superior to Santa, Sakya is superior to Dasya, Vasalya is superior to Sakya, Madhurya is superior to Vasalya. But the preceding mellow is present in the proceeding mellow, just as we are saying here. Santa is present in Dasya, and Santa and Dasya are present in Sakya, and Santa, Dasya, and Sakya are present in Vasalya, and Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya are present in Madhurya. So when a living entity develops service attitude, then he practices Dasya Bhakti. But when a living entity is attracted to the impersonal aspect of the Lord, then he is in Santa. So the next slide, slide 82, talks about the two categories of Dasya Bhava. 82. I have something different.
It will be 81 here.
I have something different here. Yeah, okay, 82, yeah, this 82. Was it 81? I have two categories of dacia. That is your 81 slide and is my 82 slide. I don't understand. Anyway, let's move on. Two categories of dacia bhava. When, according to his desire, the living entity develops love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this beginning stage of love is called Dasya Bhakti Rasa. Dasya Bhakti Rasa is divided into two categories called Sambrahma Dasya and Gaurava Dasya. In Sambrahma Dasya, the devotee renders respectful service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the more advanced Gaura Dasya, the devotee feels that he is receiving protection from the Lord. So Sambrahma means the devotee renders service to the Supreme Lord. And then when he becomes more advanced in this Dasya Rasa, then he feels protection from the Lord, and that is called Gaurava Dasya. So in the beginning of Dasya Ras, one renders service to the Lord, but as one advances on the path of Dasya Ras, one receives reciprocation from the Lord. One feels protection from the Lord, and that is the second stage of Dasya Bhava. Slide 83. Attachment to Sakya Ras. I don't know. There's something there. I've lost one slide. Yeah. 83 says attachment in Sakya Ras. Attachment in Sakya Ras. Attachment Sakya, okay. Stai bhavo vibha vidyai sakyam admo chitai iha. Nitais chite satam pushtim rasa prayam udira yatehe. According to one's original consciousness, ecstatic emotions may be exhibited as continuously existing in fraternity. When this stage of Krishna consciousness is mature, it is called Priya Rasa or Sakya Bhakti Rasa. In other words, Sakya means friendship. So on the platform of friendship, one sees the Lord as an equal. One does not to be a friend of the Lord means one must be on equal footing with the Lord. Friendship means relating on equal platform. So we see the cowhead boys, they climb on Krishna's shoulders. Krishna climb on their shoulders. They snatch food from Krishna's mouth. Krishna snatch food from their mouth. So Sakya Ras is intimacy, even though they are doing that as service, but the intimacy takes away awe and reverence. So from the Sakya Ras, Vasalya Ras, Madhurya Ras, there is no awe and reverence. In Santa Ras, and probably in Dasya Ras. In Dasya Ras, there is awe and reverence. And that is why Dasya Ras is prominent in Vaikuntha. In the Vaikuntha planet, the relationship between Krishna or Narayan and the devotees is mostly Dasya Ras. And of course, there is also Santa Ras. There are also some other entities who serve the Lord in Santa Ras. But in Goloka Vrindavan, the prominent rasas are this Vasalia, this Sakya, friendship, Vasalia, parenthood, and Madhurya. Because in these rasas, there are no awe and reverence is missing. Awe and reverence is not present. The Sakya Ras, they are on the same level with Krishna. They see Krishna as their friend, they're equal, they can play with him, they can fight with him, they can do anything with him, because their bhava is a bhava of equality. On the Vasalya Ras, the devotee feels superior to Krishna because he has to protect, he has to maintain. And then on the Madhurya Ras, the devotees actually think that they own Krishna. They own Krishna. The gopis are thinking Krishna is our property. So Sakya Ras is being described in this verse. According to one's original consciousness, ecstatic emotions may be exhibited as continuously existing in fraternity, in friendship. When this stage of Krishna consciousness is mature, it is called Priya Rasa or Sakya Rasa, where the devotee acts on the same platform with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we go to the next slide, 84. It talks about Vasalya Ras, Vasalya Bhava. I've already mentioned that. Vimbhavadyastu Vasalyam Stai Pushtim Upagataha Esha Vasalya Namatra Prokto Bhakti Raso Munai. When eternally existing love of Godhead transforms into parental love and is mixed with corresponding emotions, that stage of spiritual existence is described by learned devotees as Vasalya Bhakti Ras. So I have some notes because the time is, we already exceeded the time. Today is Sunday, so I'm not reading my notes. I'm just looking at the verse, the slide. So here, the Vasalya Bhav means that the devotee feels superior to Krishna. The devotee wants to protect Krishna. The devotee becomes a well-wisher of Krishna. This is the feeling of Vasalya Bhav. And here it said, when eternally existing love of God transforms into parental love, it is mixed with corresponding emotions. And what are the emotions? The emotions are that one feels he is a protector of the Lord, one feels the maintainer of the Lord, one feels he's the caretaker of the Lord. If he does not do that, Krishna will not survive. So this is the bhav, this is the emotions that a devotee on the platform of Vasalya feels towards Krishna. Let me see. 84. It says that my note says, attachment to Vasalya Bhav. On the platform of parental love, the devotee considers himself the Lord's maintainer, that the Lord is the object of maintenance, like his son. And therefore, this mellow is full of qualities of the four rasas, Santa, Dasya, and Sakya. This increases the nectar of love. In the exchange of spiritual happiness between Krishna and his devotee, in which Krishna is controlled by his devotee, this is compared to an ocean of nectar in which the devotee and Krishna are plunged into this ocean. This is the verdict of the learned scholars who appreciate Krishna's opulence. This Vasalya Bhav. And finally, 85. 85, attachment in conjugal love. The last slide, 85. Admochitai vibhavadya pushtim nita satam yuridi madhurya kyo bhavet bhakti raso so madhura ratihi. If in accordance with one's own natural development in Krishna consciousness, one's attraction leans towards conjugal love within the heart, that is called attachment in conjugal love, or madhurya ras. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is mentioned, Madhura Rase Bhakta Mukhya Vraja Gopi Ganaha, Mahisa Gana Lakshmi Gana, Asankhya Ganana. The chief devotees in conjugal love are the gopis of Vrindavan, the queens in Dwaraka, and the goddesses of fortune in Vaikuntha. These devotees are innumerable. So when it comes to conjugal love, actually, it says that on the platform of conjugal love, the devotee offers his body in the service of the Lord. Thus, on this platform, the transcendental qualities of all five rasas are present. So on the platform of conjugal love, a devotee offers his body in the service of the Lord. And so we see that the gopis of Vrindavan, the queens of Dwaraka, and the goddesses of fortune in the Vaikuntha planets, they are the practitioners of these conjugal loving affairs. So it is said, attachment for Krishna in Santaras, rendering service to the Lord in Dasyaras, rendering relaxed service in fraternity, serving in parental love with feelings of maintenance, or all combined on the platform of conjugal love, when the devotee wants to serve the Lord by offering him his personal body. Thus, the qualities of other rasas combine to form the nectar of conjugal love. On this platform, all the different feelings of a devotee are amalgamated. It's just like in the process of creation begins with sound, and sound develops into ether, ether into air, air into fire, fire into water, water into earth. So each of the preceding element is present in the proceeding element. In other words, sound is present in ether, sound and ether are present in air, sound, ether, and air are present in fire, sound, ether, air, fire are present in water, sound, ether, air, fire, water are present in earth. So similarly, all the rasas, beginning with Santa Ras, Dasya Ras, Sakya Ras, Vasalya Ras, all of them are present in conjugal ras. And that intensifies. That's why it says the different feelings of a devotee are intensified on the platform of Madhurya Bhav. On the platform of Madhurya Bhav, all the feelings are amalgamated. They're brought together. And so the Madhurya Ras is said to be more intensive in the feelings towards Krishna than any of the platforms. Of course, inside a devotee is satisfied with whatever service, whatever rasa he has of Krishna. But it is said the Madhurya Ras is more demanding and more intense. And that's why the gopis are considered the topmost devotees in Krishna consciousness. So if there are any comments or questions, in fact, I have to rush through the last part of it so that we can conclude. But I will request that you take your time and read. Actually, if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, that is the Rupa Shiksha. Rupa Shiksha is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa at the at Allahabad or Prayag for 10 days. And it's where he gave him a gist or a synopsis of these rasas, these mellows. So there are, if you read through that chapter, especially towards the end, from about verse 190 or 180 upwards to about 230, 235, you see the descriptions of all these mellows, and the purpose of Prabhupada gives such wonderful purports, wonderful expatiation on these mellows. They are a bit technical, but if you read over and over again, you would enjoy this section of the Nectar devotion as we are trying to present it now. So if there are any comments or questions, they are welcome. If there are no questions, then we'll bring our course to a close today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So any comments?
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj, I think at this juncture we can have the slide now. Okay.
Yeah, the slides are with Prabhu, so you can share.
Sure.
You can share.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes,
We are
Prabhu.
pleased to have you with us. You ran everything up for us. Started with the Bhagavad Gita through to Nectar of Devotion. We are very grateful for having you around. Thanks to you for tolerating all our lateness and our incompetency. So we are proud to have you with us. Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving the opportunity. You know, I love to teach because it gives me the opportunity to study. That is the beauty of teaching. If you don't learn, you cannot teach. If you don't know, you can teach. So this service of teaching is actually it actually benefits me more than the students, because it allows me to research, it allows me to study, it allows me to go through the subject again and again so that I can understand it before I can present it. So I see it as an opportunity to become more grounded in Krishna consciousness, because the more we understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, the more we understand these various aspects of Krishna consciousness, the more we become more firm in our practice of Krishna consciousness. Nothing will shake us. So I'm also grateful to the students for giving me the opportunity to study this again and again and again. And every time I teach it, I go extra. I read more. I do more research, and I come across more information. So it's enhancing my own knowledge and my own bhakti. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
We are very grateful.
Please, I have a small question.
The
The
Let's
Chaitanya
one by
Charitamrita
one.
Madhya Lila.
By one. Akinchana Prabhu, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila.
Yeah.
I would like to note it, but I don't hear the end.
Okay, chapter 19.
Chapter 19.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Madhya Lila, chapter 19. That is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami. It's called Rupa Shiksha, on the science of the mellows. So read the whole chapter, because towards the end, just a conversation between Rupa Goswami and Lord Chaitanya. When Lord Chaitanya finished instructing him and wanted to go to Benares, and instructed Rupa Goswami and his brother Anupama to go to Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami was weeping. And Lord Chaitanya embraced him after he finished instructing him and told him, now expand. I've given the synopsis of this science. Expand it as much as you want. Then he embraced Rupa Goswami and departed for Benares. And Rupa Goswami was begging the Lord whether he could follow him. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, go to Vrindavan. So he was crying. So that's the latter part of the chapter. But between, I think, 180 to about 235, 238, around that, this subject matter of the melos is discussed, and Prabhupada gives some very beautiful purpose. So if you study that again and again, you grasp the understanding of these melos.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so Maharaj, thank you so much. On behalf of all of the students, Sitan Prima Prabhu was here a few.
His face, and he disappeared. Where's the class?
I think he has to go for some other engagement.
Yeah,
So
the Bhakti
I was hoping the microphone at the end so that he can properly, as the coordinator of the platform, to express appreciation, but because he's not here, and given the responsibility to coordinate on behalf of the whole Yatra, the students, and the Parampara, we want to sincerely appreciate you. Thank you so much for the knowledge giving. And we pray that we will be able to make better use of it in our own individual life and expand it to others also. We thank you so much for the opportunity. So the students, the essays has been given last week, so we all know what to do about it. So let us follow up. When Chitan Prima Prabhu is free, I think on the WhatsApp group, he will instruct further what is next. So if there are no other comments on this note, I will want to beg all of the devotees to please kindly unmute. Let us loudly chant a powerful Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and appreciate His Holiness for giving us these wonderful lessons. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, everyone, for
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Srivas, Vanacari, Puki, Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Sankar Prabhu. And then we have to log out because some of us are getting ready to go to the temple now.
Patita Prabhu Rabaideya Patita Prabhu Rabaideya Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Koro More Prabhu. Nityananda Premananda
Nityananda Premananda Kripa Avalokana Karo Ami Baro Dukhi Kripa Avalokana दया करो मोरे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु दया करो सीतापति अद्वैत गोसाई तब कृपा बोले भाई चैतन्य निताय तब कृपा बोले भाई चैतन्य निताय आहा स्वरूप सनातन रूप रघुनाथा आहा स्वरूप सनातन रूप रघुनाथा भट्ट जुगा श्री जीवा प्रभु भट्ट जुगा श्री जीवा प्रभु
Aleka Bravo.
Haribo.
Ecstasy.
Nothing more than this. This is the Zenith. Oh,
He is in ecstasy.
So enjoying the ecstasy now. Salika Prabhu.
Haribo.
I think prior to the discussion we had some time ago concerning we prepare
Just wait like 1 minute or two. Then Kita will finish now. I'll stop it. Prabhu Srivas Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More Kama Bina Ke Dayalo Jagat Samsare Shri Krishna Chaitanya